The childhood of St. John of the Cross was under the shadow of the cross. Because when John was born, Gonzalo fell seriously sick. So he could not do the weaving as he did earlier. By the time, the widow also died. And the only earning member was Catalina, who had given birth to John. So she also could not do the work as before, as much as before. So the family was reduced to poverty. With the income from Catalina's weaving, she had to treat the husband, feed the 3 children, and feed herself. So she took up a humble, at the same time very painful for any mother. That is, she had to breastfeed another child. You must imagine, about 408 years ago, there was no baby food. So if a child is to be given some extra nourishment, extra food, the custom was, suppose in a rich family, the child is born and they will be looking for another woman in the locality who has given birth to her child. So the rich family sent the child to this poor woman who would feed both her child and the child of the rich man, and for which they gave some remuneration. And that family was so kind, knowing the problem of Catalina, they gave 4 reales, Spanish currency, extra per month. Maybe now reales does not exist anymore. Maybe we may compare to some 4,000 rupees extra. And when John comes to know later about this, he would say, in that way, I got a milk sister. Because, there were 3 boys, Francisco, Luis and John, no girl. And this particular girl, that child of the rich man was a girl child. And that's why John said, in that way, I got a milk sister. Usually we have sisters, brothers related by blood. Here no, because she had shared the same milk as that of John. And her sister, one Maria Velasquez, testified to this fact during the process of canonization of St. John of the Cross. So it was a fact. And in spite of all Catalina did, even doing that, as I say, for a woman, it is painful to give her to feed at her breast another person's child, depriving partly her child. But even after doing that, she could not save Gonzalo. Gonzalo died. And it is said, in the meantime, Luis also, the second boy, elder to John, also died. We are short of any correct information when Luis was born and when he died. Anyway, he died before Gonzalo, because his mortal remains were buried by the tomb of Gonzalo. Now, their mortal remains are buried in the church of St. Cyprian, Fuentiveros. It is said Luis died of malnutrition, and Francisco by that time was 14 or 15 years, he also was not an earning member. So when the family was reduced to 3, Gonzalo died, Luis died, widow died. Only Catalina and her 2 children, Francisco and John. John was 2 by then. So, encouraged by the neighbors and prompted by her own inner inspiration, she thought of taking these 2 children to the family of Gonzalo in Yepes near Toledo. She thought, now that 14 or 15 years are over, they might have forgiven, if not forgotten, what Gonzalo did by marrying a slave woman. On the way, that's a distance of 150 kilometers from Fuenteveros to Yepes. On the way, she stopped at the residence of Gonzalo's elder brother, the archdeacon. She thought, being a clergyman, he would be more kind and more understandable to his own brother's children, nephews. But he refused. The excuse he said was they were too young. By then, Francisco was 14 or 15. What Catalina expected was to keep the boy, Francisco, with him for his education and for his future upbringing. And the real reason we came to know later from other historians, because this archpriest, he said it was a question of prestige for the family because his brother married a slave woman, and that way they were turned away. The next option was to go to the younger brother of Gonzalo, who was a doctor. He had no children. He welcomed Francisco and promised Catalina he would educate him, and one day he would make Francisco his heir. And Catalina returned to Fuenteveros along with John, going back again 150 kilometers on foot. And she started or resumed her weaving. On the other hand, the wife of this doctor was a cruel woman. She did not only send him for schooling, but also ill-treated him in many ways. No proper food. Sometimes she used to beat him and was forced to do all kinds of household work for them. And the boy was suffering silently. Catalina, with a mother's heart, felt this. She knew that there is something wrong with the elder boy. So she goes again to Yepes along with John, as I said, walking 150 kilometers. But the boy saw the mother. She was broken into tears and fell at her feet and said, "This is what is happening here." So Catalina wanted to take him back. But the doctor made an apology and said, "I was not aware of this ill treatment of his wife," which is very difficult to believe in a family of 3. What his wife did to this boy he was not aware. Anyway, that was the excuse. But he said, "In future I would take care of the boy." But Catalina said, "No, enough is enough." So she took Francisco back to Fuenteveros, and both mother and by now Francisco was about 15 years. He also helped him weaving, that they were living rather quietly and moderately. But Katarina said for their better education of the children and better earning, they moved from Fontiveros to another place called Arevalo. It was about 25 kilometers from Fontiveros. There, the family lived for 4 years or so. John was 5.5 years when he went to Arevalo. And during those 4 years, nothing special happened in the life of John, but the main character of those 4 years was Francisco. He was in his late teens or early 20s, was leading a rather mischievous life. His biographers speak so much about that. Anyway, that's not our concern. What happened was, while he was 21, Francisco, he married a woman called Ana Izquierda. They had, in their married life, 8 children. 7 of them died at a young age. Only one child, one girl, survived. When she grew up, she joined the Carthusian order and became a nun. With that, the whole lineage of Gonzalo ends. To repeat, Gonzalo, they were 3 boys, elder being a priest, no family, younger one doctor, no children. Only Gonzalo had these 3 children, of which John would become a Carmelite and Luis would die. The only one was Francisco, who had children, but only one girl who survived. That girl becomes a nun. That way, the lineage of that family ends.